Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll introduce you to some cattle operations that have made stewardship and conservation a priority as we highlight winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. We'll also examine why this program is so important to the future of the beef industry.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Auctioner. Thanks for joining us. For more than 3 decades, the Environmental Stewardship Award program, also known as ESAP, has recognized the nation's best operations for their outstanding stewardship practices and conservation achievements. Today, we're introducing you to a few of the regional winners for 2023 and taking a closer look at their operations. These regional and national winners are honored for their commitment to protecting the environment and improving fish and wildlife habitats while operating profitable cattle businesses. Generous support from sponsors has been one key to the success and longevity of the Environmental Stewardship Award program. Another has been the commitment of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. And joining us now is NCBA President-elect Buck Woehrbein. Buck, why is the ESAP program so vital and important to the beef cattle industry?
Environmental Stewardship Award is really important, I think, because we all look at livestock cattle producers as environmentalists. And the bovine's the greatest steward of the earth's resources. But these people take that to the next level. And so to be able to showcase them and what they do to show how the bovine can fit into helping the environment and sustainability is a real strong thing for us. And watching these people and what they do on their land is so impressive and inspiring to others.
That was the word I was going to use, inspiring. And so tell us this, how useful and valuable are those great stories that are told by these true environmentalists to moving our agenda forward in Washington, D.C.? What impact do those stories have on our work in D.C.?
Sure, when you can go show video and so forth of what's going on out on the broad domain on people's operations to the people in Washington and places that don't see that and don't get out there and experience it themselves, that's a very powerful message that you don't get with the written word or the spoken word. So it's a great opportunity to show what actually happens out there.
I'm sure, like me, you're very impressed by some of the incredibly innovative practices these folks are utilizing on their operations. What are your thoughts? Innovation,
of course, but it ends up really being every day doing the right thing. And that is how you win at life, is every day making the right turn. And if you make the wrong turn, making a correction. These people are innovative, but they also do the job every single day.
Yeah. And they're committed to just leaving the resources better than they've found them. Would you agree?
Without a doubt. Yeah. These people all have children and grandchildren they hope to leave. Obviously, they want things to be as good or better than when they found it.
So what advice or encouragement would you give to some of our viewers who either A, may be one of those people who have done a tremendous job in managing their resources, or maybe have a neighbor or a friend that needs to be nominated? What guidance would you give them?
Yes, I would watch these videos and get in touch with NCBA and see how you nominate someone and see what it takes for people to do that and the opportunity that's available. And you can do it for recognition, but the better reason is to do it to inspire others in the business.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for your time today, Buck. Now, if you'd like to find out more about the Environmental Stewardship Award winners and see photos and videos, or even learn how to nominate someone, as Buck mentioned, for the award next year, you can visit the website environmentalstewardship.org. NCBA represents cattle farmers and ranchers in 7 different regions around the country. And accordingly, there is one winner of the Environmental Stewardship Award from each of those 7 regions. So now, let's visit the state of Washington to check out one of the honorees.
Our ranch is committed to protecting the environment. Everything that we do when we get up in the morning is pointed at making sure that we leave things better than we found them.
Hi, I'm Alan Miller of Tower Rock Ranch. This ranch was started in 1883, and my grandparents purchased this ranch in 1942. Today I manage it with my wife Shan, along with my sister Gail and her husband Bruce, and longtime crew members Robert and Christine Vargas, who are essentially family.
The rock in the background here is called Tower Rock, sometimes called Chimney Rock. My brother Alan named this ranch from this rock because it's unique. Everybody knows this rock, and we own the land that it sits on here and quite a bit of the ground around it.
At Tower Rock Ranch, sustainability is a daily goal. And investing in sustainable practices has improved both the success and the profitability of our ranch. We have a rotational grazing system, and we try not to graze the same piece of ground the same time 2 years in a row.
We want our cattle to be where they will do the best, gain the most, but we also want to make sure that we don't overgraze an area. We do that for the benefit of this grass in this country, because if you graze it clear down to the roots, it weakens it and it takes longer for it to come back, so we try to leave quite a bit standing.
A grazing plan is very important, but you have to be able to alter it, especially for fire. In the last 14 years, we've had 5 state mobilization fires. State mobilization means that it's above and beyond what your local fire district can do to control it. We've lost over 14,000 acres of ground, 100 miles of fence. I mean, it's just like black moonscape for miles and miles and miles after these fires.
Our ground will take 2 to 3 years to regenerate. That forces us to graze other parts of the ranch harder or reduce our herd. But rotational grazing does help with fire prevention. On an area that's been grazed, it's not as tall, there's usually not seed head left on it, and it doesn't burn quite as hot or as fast.
Sustainability and stewardship is a continuous path of improvements. You have to continually think of new and better ways to do things and not be afraid to try those things. And that's what we strive to do every day.
I feel a tremendous sense of responsibility. If we don't take care of this land, it will not take care of us. And we love it. We've been here our whole lives. It's a 3-generation ranch at this point, and we can't bear the thought of it not being well taken care of.
We're not done talking about the 2023 ESAP regional winners. When we come back, we'll show you the great work being done at 2 more award-winning operations.
In this week's Weather Watch, we're going to break down the next several weeks, watching the precipitation and the temperature trends as we head through spring and kick off summer.
Weeds will rob me of my investments. The weeds are not palatable to cows. They will not eat them, or if they do eat them, some of them may be toxic. So there's a return on investment by allowing there to be more grass available to be grazed by the cattle.
National Cattlemen's Beef Association would like to thank our gold partners. Their support allows us to continue being the trusted leader and definitive voice of the U.S. cattle and beef industry.
Every day, cattlemen and women do all they can to provide the best possible care for their land and their animals. They do so because they're committed to protecting and improving their natural resources while leaving a strong legacy for the next generation. Today, we're highlighting some of the 2023 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Let's take you to California to meet another winner.
Cattle are one of the most vital tools in managing the health of these landscapes, and I believe that without cattle, we wouldn't see the tremendous comeback of many of these endangered species. Hi, my name is Alex Hart. I'm here at the Hart Ranch in Little Shasta Valley, California. Today, the ranch is managed by my parents, Susan and Blair Hart, myself, and my cousin, Zach Salvestro.
My great-great-great-grandmother came out here on a steamship out of New York, and we've been here ever since. Actually, there are two properties, a mountain property, which is called the Butte Creek Ranch, and then there's the Little Shasta Valley Ranch.
Not unlike any other cattle ranch or any other property owner, we have challenges. But we feel somewhat unique in California in that we are a regulatory-rich environment. Our approach is to embrace those challenges and figure out how we can turn them into opportunities.
You can either go in with what I call gunboat diplomacy, where nothing gets done and you're in a constant battle with agency personnel, or you go in and you put your arm around their shoulder and go, how are we going to manage all of this and make it better for all of us?
For instance, we pursued and attained a federally held safe harbor agreement for the benefit of coho salmon. And what that means is that we operate our cattle ranch in a way that allows us to turn our senior cold water back into the stream at beneficial times for fish. And the result of that is a pristine cold water rearing habitat for salmon. Also, one species that we're particularly proud of here is the greater sandhill crane. At the Hart Ranch, we have the highest nesting population of sandhill cranes in the Shasta and Scott Valleys. We discovered that cranes have a symbiotic, beneficial relationship with the cattle on the landscape. We have always managed our grasslands around the cranes and keeping the cranes in the middle of the cows and moving them together throughout the plain.
They are here not in spite of the cattle, but because of the cattle, because of Hart management practices over the year, that's what's created the habitat for all this wildlife.
Everybody that sees this property sees how spectacular it is. So each generation has gone along and tried to improve what they have so that you have it to be able to pass it on down to the next generation.
We do it with good, solid agriculture while at the same time producing healthy, nutritious food for our society.
It's a process that is constantly adapting to the changing environmental conditions that we have. And my family has long been very proud and humbled to call themselves the stewards of this landscape.
We've got one more ESAP regional winner to show you. We'll introduce you to that operation when we return. Stay with us.
By installing Ritchie waterers, you save water while keeping it fresh and always available to your animals. You protect the land by keeping natural water clean and soil healthy. And you conserve power because they're energy efficient. We're committed to helping you create a prosperous, sustainable, and regenerative future. Because we know, like you know, that every saved drop matters. Ritchie, fresh water for life.
Handle feed, waste, and other materials on your operation with John Deere equipment. Weigh feed on the go with dynamic weighing. And move materials faster without spilling with the Level to Horizon feature on 6R tractors. Move and stack bales easily and clean up brush and debris with improved grapple work on 5 Series tractors. Get into tight spaces with skid steers and wheel loaders. And check calves, fences, and more with John Deere Gators. Ask your John Deere dealer to learn more.
Time now for Weather Watch with meteorologist Matt Makins.
Matt Makins here. Time for another Weather Watch. Hope it finds you doing well. This time we're going to be chatting a little bit about what you may have just read in your Directions magazine or what you may see in the next National Cattlemen. That's going to be some spring options. Plus, we'll talk about some summer too. A couple of graphics you'll see in some of those publications. One breaks down the strengths of El Nino and La Nina events and how they all differ. Plus, in next month's National Cattlemen, you're going to be looking at how we may play out spring, summer, and fall as we go throughout this year. I know we're kind of getting into crunch time. Growing season is upon us. Where is the focus of moisture for the next several weeks? This animation is weekly. It's going through the rest of spring, and we'll get into summer as well. And the focal point of moisture is mostly going to be on the Central Plains, Northern Plains, and Northern Rockies. We'll spread some moisture out elsewhere during these weeks, of course, but that's going to be the focal point of the storm flow, central to northern states. As far as temperatures are concerned, we're going to go through April into May and also June here, and there's going to be some bouts of some colder temperatures throughout the Central Plains coming along with that moisture. That makes sense, right? A more active weather pattern with more moisture is going to be cooler a lot of the time, and that's certainly going to be the case. So cooler temperatures at times will hit the northern plains, central states down to the south, and kind of linger across the southwest due to the soil moisture being so high there. And that's mostly where we're going to have the cooler than normal conditions as we get into the growing season. Speaking of the growing season, we have soil temperatures that are still frozen, obviously, across the northern states. I put together this animation to show you the warming temperatures from late April. Now we're into May, and we're approaching the 60-degree mark across a great portion of the Corn Belt here as we get into May and also June, and now we're approaching later June, and temperatures are well above 70 degrees for those soils in a lot of cases. Why am I bringing this up? The heat that builds across Texas, Oklahoma, southwestern Kansas, New Mexico, across those soils, that is going to rapidly increase the onset of drought, and that is tied into that weather pattern that we've discussed in some of your publications recently of going away from El Nino, getting back to La Nina, and it's all tied together. That's what we'll be tracking as we go throughout this year. That wraps up this week's Weather Watch. We'll see you the next time.
You've already seen a couple of great stories about families who make their living on the land and their outstanding conservation efforts as we honor the 2023 Environmental Stewardship Award regional winners. Now, let's check out one more great operation, this time in North Dakota.
Stewardship means to me that you're taking care of what God has given you and treating your resources the best you can and valuing people and the land and the earth. Hi, I'm Keith Bartholomy of Bartholomy Cattle Company near Sheldon, North Dakota. Our family's been farming and raising cattle in this part of North Dakota since 1895. Today, Bartholomy Cattle Company is a partnership between myself and my son Carl.
We thought about a name and decided, well, our names start with K's, we might as well have Bartholomy Cattle Company. And I've had a lot of fun being on the farm with my dad, so I hope that someday my kids would enjoy working with their dad, and then so on down the line as it goes. I think about soil almost daily, because soil is kind of the heart of everything. There's no trees, grass, any crops, nothing grows without soil. We want to do everything we can to keep the soil healthy and in place. When the soil's healthy and it crumbles, it's easier for the roots to grow through it. When it's nice and crumbly, it lets air in and water can infiltrate when we get a rainstorm, so it has better potential for holding the water there for the grass to utilize instead of it running off. We do run on a couple different creeks and near a river, so any runoff can be harmful to the water.
We feel that good grazing helps improve and protect our land. And the cattle are an integral part of this whole system that we use out here. We rotational graze, but we always rotate with a purpose. And we always want to make sure there's enough rest and recovery on every pasture that we use. And it's pretty much scientifically proven that proper grazing by livestock, which rotational regenerative grazing is proper, helps the wildlife, helps all the fauna, the bugs, the soils, all that stuff. And when my plants are healthy, I know that soil is going to be pretty healthy underneath there.
We do have a feedlot, and the reason we built a hoop barn and not an open feedlot was, goes back to that water quality and water safety. So we built a barn, and then we built off the end of the barn was a manure storage and able to capture all the nutrients so we can spread it back out on the fields and utilize it for fertilizer instead of it going into the groundwater. Our operation's always looking to improve. There's always new ideas out there, and we're always looking for that next thing to make it better. And that's what we strive to do every day, is make the land the best it can be, and in turn, that'll benefit us.
We're in this for the long haul, and Carl is definitely thinking about the future, and some days it brings me to tears to think of how lucky I am that he's fully bought into this, and I'm proud as hell.
When we come back, we'll wrap up this special edition of Cattlemen to Cattlemen and tell you how you can be nominated for the Environmental Stewardship Award. Stay with us.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. NCBA is the oldest and largest national cattle industry organization working to defend your interests in Washington, D.C. And there are big benefits to being a member. You'll get news you can use in the National Cattlemen, email updates in the NCBA Beef Bulletin, plus big discounts only for NCBA members. Join by calling 866-233-3872 or online at ncba.org.
Welcome back. You might be wondering, how does someone win an Environmental Stewardship Award? Any organization or individual can nominate a beef producer for the honor. As we told you earlier, a committee of experts from inside and outside the cattle industry evaluates each nominee and picks a winner from each NCBA region. The selection committee looks for both sound conservation practices and the ability to serve as spokespersons for the industry. You can download a copy of the nomination packet at the environmentalstewardship.org. We're wrapping up this episode with legacy photos, and we've got some beautiful images from the award-winning operations we highlighted in this episode. Let's take a look. Now, one of these Regional Stewardship Award winners will be named the national winner at April's legislative conference in Washington, D.C. It's an important event where members of the cattle industry join NCBA's Washington-based policy team for 3 days of advocacy on Capitol Hill. You can get details on how you can attend at the website ncba.org. So there you have it, a look at some of the regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award for 2023. We salute and thank all the winners, the sponsors, and everyone involved who has helped make the Environmental Stewardship Award program a success for the last 3 decades. That's our time for this special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week right here on RFD TV.